Chapter 1. Inanna. A warm breeze stirred the thick, humid air as hundreds of nobles made their way down Uruk's vibrant marble roads. This fairly modern city was home to some 200,000 people. It stretched outward from its magnificently designed centre, where bright, elegant buildings shimmered in the sun, into a sprawl of neatly aligned houses and structures that followed the curves of the terrain. Armed sentries flanked the thoroughfares, turning away any who did not belong. Above the city's limestone facades, families gathered on rooftops to witness the day's spectacle, a community uniting in grief over the loss of its beloved Nin, the Princess Inanna. From the highest towers rose large brass cylinders, known as rassicas, akin to bell towers but far more resonant. Men and women atop these spires used hefty metal rods to draw circular motions around the cylinders, creating deep, vibrating frequencies that reverberated throughout Uruk. These frequencies reached up to 15 kilometers away, and the tone or pitch changed depending on the event. On festive summer nights, the vibrations felt bright and uplifting. Today, they carried the weighted sorrow of national mourning. Leading the solemn procession through the streets was the royal family, overseeing the funeral rites of Inanna. Around 20 of her closest kin were present, including her son Sargon, overseer of art and culture, his wife Narari, who manages the city's finances, and their two children, Inanna and Gilgamesh, the former named after her now deceased grandmother. Both siblings, born just 2 years apart, walked side by side, watching the line of people stretch before them. At the procession's forefront were 6 of the family's high-ranking members, carrying the late Nin. Old age finally caught up to her, Gilgamesh whispered to his sister. Eventually, death comes for us all, little brother, Inanna replied. Another of Rasika's haunting hums washed over them as they passed beneath the tower. Intended to evoke grief, the frequency sent a shudder through all nearby. Weary murmurs of mourning whirled among the nobles. Gilgamesh turned to Inanna, his voice subdued. "Where is Ereshkigal? She should be here." Inanna sighed, recalling their older sister. "She's been absent for years, Gilgamesh. She made it clear she wanted no part of this family. Her views on how we should live. She never belonged." They continued in somber silence, climbing the broad stairs leading to a marble-white palace, set atop a carved mountainside. Round columns girded its outer walls, and statues depicting the 12 ages stood watch. A cylindrical marble wheel hung above the entrance. Its detailed carvings captured the eye. The palace's north-south thoroughfare allowed a steady, cooling breeze to channel inside, offering shelter from the equatorial heat. The Nin's body was carried gently up the steps. Inanna and Gilgamesh stayed close, ascending with the family to the top. Under the beating sun, Inanna's form was presented in the great hall. Her body was placed upon an open shrine amid a profusion of flowers and precious stones that echoed her astrological sigil, the elephant. Hours passed while the Nin's immediate family lingered in the temple, greeting streams of nobles who came to pay their respects. Convention demanded a final farewell to any deceased Nin. Hence, no high-born soul in Uruk would risk missing such a significant day. Standing beside Gilgamesh, Inanna quietly thanked the countless strangers. Some she recognized from childhood. Most were simply acquaintances of her grandmother. Meanwhile, Sargon tried to manage his own sorrow as the influx of nobles approached with condolences or with unsubtle interest in the political vacuum left behind. "Will you push for your wife, Narari, to become Nin?" a nobleman asked him bluntly. "With your mother's passing, there is no direct heir." Hiding his annoyance behind a polite mask, Sargon darted his gaze to Inanna and Gilgamesh, who were graciously deflecting nosy questions of their own. "No, my wife has no desire for that. My daughter, Inanna, however, has been shadowing her grandmother. She's studied our history, our politics, and the economy. She may be uncertain, however, I believe she'll be a worthy nin to lead Sumer." The noble raised his eyebrows, satisfied he gleaned his piece of gossip. "I see. Well, then, I wish peace and unity to your family in these sorrowful times." He and his wife slipped away, already whispering behind cupped hands. Sargon's attention returned to Inanna, a deep wave of both pride and grief surging inside him. He feared the burden she would inherit, a duty that may consume her for the rest of her life. Yet he also knew the day's events would demand an answer from her by dawn. Would she accept the role of nin? As dusk approached, the sun slipped behind Sumer's distant mountains, painting the sky in oranges and purples. Inanna drifted to the temple's edge, gazing out at the date palms standing guard around Uruk. There, in that quiet moment, she realized how inevitable this choice was. Whether ready or not, the kingdom needed a successor. The question persisted, would she take her grandmother's place? Night fell. The moon reflected its pale glow over Uruk. Normally alive with music, dancing, and other festivities on a balmy summer's evening, the city now lay subdued under grief. Atop the temple, only the nin's close kin remained, forming a circle beside her shrine. Because Inanna, the late nin, had been widowed, no spouse was present. Instead, her immediate heirs stood in place, among them Sargon and Bao, her two sons, and Sargon's wife, Nirari, along with Inanna and Gilgamesh. Bao, a long-time wanderer who sought knowledge in distant lands, had returned solely for this funeral, planning to leave again soon. They all now prepared for Inanna's final transition. Two shamans stepped forward as a small orchestra of colleagues struck up low, vibrating notes with simple instruments and their own voices. The family stood motionless, gazing upon Inanna's body one last time. A lantern-bearing shaman trailed a chain of brass overhead, releasing sweet smoke from acacia herbs. It curled around each family member, conjuring a dreamlike calm. Inanna inhaled, and the heady mixture of the chanting and the acacia's natural chemicals drew her into a semi-trance-like state. In that dissociative haze, she didn't see her grandmother's still form, but rather the woman she had been, forced into rulership by circumstance, dedicating her life to repairing a kingdom devastated by a previous nin's instability, raising her children alone, and somehow guiding Sumer toward the better days it now enjoyed. Inanna sensed the intangible yet powerful presence, a final echo of that spirited woman. As the vibrations and incense brought tears to some, Inanna quietly accepted the call of fate. This was her inheritance, an inheritance not just of lineage, but of duty. She realized, in a deep stirring of her heart, that it was time for her to decide whether she would be nin, continuing the legacy her grandmother had so valiantly carried,